Plus is some different types of tags. Let's look at the other part, and that is the validation. Yesterday, when we did the lab, we have noticed that we have taken a lot of pain in validating the inputs on our own. So we try to get the values, and the code that we have written yesterday was just validating whether the input is blank. That's the only thing you did. You checked whether it is null or whether the length is less than 1. That's the only thing. But you notice that a lot of codes, a lot of time was wasted in even copy pasting that thing. Okay? And imagine if you have to do it for many forms. Then every time, maybe you can say that, okay, I'm going to copy paste it from the other, but it's going to take some time for you. Just think of a scenario wherein these validations can be kept separate from your actions. So you're creating this action class. Think of taking this validation out and putting it somewhere else so that the same set of validations can be used for many different classes. And that is what is the validator framework. So you write the validation at one place and reuse it in different places. How do you write the validation? Definitely, you do it in a declarative way. What's the meaning of saying declarative way? You are not going to write the Java for that. Instead, you are going to write the XML for that. So the validation steps, you write it in the XML, keep it at one place, then take any action form. You want to validate the fields, use that as your template. Use this validator as the template for validating the fields. So this is what is the validator framework. What we are doing here is we move all the validation logic outside our action form, and declaratively we configure the application for using the validations. So this is the idea behind it. What does that mean? We are not going to write any Java for doing the validation. Okay? Why we are not supposed to write it? Because if tomorrow if the validation technique changes, then you have to go to all the Java classes, make changes for the validation. So today we have done only simple validation. Assume that you start with validation wherein you say that the field value must be, say, age of the person must be greater than 20 and maybe less than 50. You are doing some insurance, working for an insurance company, and let's say you have a business condition which says that the field value that is entered for the age must be greater than 20 and less than 50. So that's of today. Tomorrow, if they change their policy, and then they come and say that no, we are going to give the insurance for a person who is greater than 15, and we are going to extend it up to 65 years. Then what you have to do is you have to go to all the forms, that is action forms, change the Java inside it, and then try to maybe test it and run it, debug it, and then validate it. Instead of that, assume that you have an XML file, that's a text file, you just open that XML file, change the two numbers, delete that 20, make it as 15, delete that 50, make it as 65, just save it, and the application automatically is configured for this. So that is the advantage of using validation framework. Now these validations are actually taken from a different plugin altogether, and that is called as Jakarta. Okay, so I have the direct link for this. So if you click on it, it will take you there to get the real understanding as to how this framework works. It's not really required for you, but for your kind information, this is not this was not part of the Struts as such. That is not part of their team. It was done as a separate project altogether, and that is now being incorporated. Okay, because it was not part of the Struts, it has to be deployed as a plugin. So for the Struts framework, the original framework didn't have it. The other team created it. So you have to take that, put it as a plugin into the Java, into the Struts framework. Okay. Now, what are the things it can do? The one yesterday, the trouble that you have taken yesterday, that is to check whether the value is there, that is required, field value is required. You did only this one. Apart from this, you can have the minimum length, maximum length, range validation, mask. So what is this mask? For example, you want the PIN code to be, or maybe telephone number to be written in this format. So NNN followed by a dash, then maybe 9 digits or maybe 4 ends, 0824, that is the region, then 1234. This is the mask that you are saying. Or you may say that the country code, so 91 dash 0824 dash some number. So this is, that means to say that there must be one number here, one number here, then a dash, then some 4 numbers altogether. So this is called as mask. You create a mask, you design that pattern, and you say that it has to be entered in this same format. The other mask that you are already familiar is with respect to the date. So you may say that date has to be entered in this format, DD MMYYYY, or you may say that date has to be entered in DD dash mm dash YYYY, or you may say that date has to be entered as DD MMM slash YY. What is this date? For example, 02 dash March dash 2013. So this 3 indicates there must be 3 letters for the month. So any mask you can create it. Okay. So you can you can create a mask and use it. You can do the date validation. That again you can do the email validation. The other primitive type, whether the value is integer, whether it's a byte, whether it is a float, what type of value that is being entered, whether it is a valid URL, that also can be done. And the last one is the credit card, to verify whether the number that is entered is a valid credit card number or not. This type of validation can be done. How do we do the validation? In order to do this validation, you have to, I've already told you, you have to use the plugin. And the place where you are going to use the plugin is, let's say this is my Struts application. You go to struts.config. The last part here, it's already done for you, and you will notice there is a plugin that says this plugin has to be there. The NetBeans will do it automatically for you. You don't have to write this statement. Otherwise, you are supposed to write it if you don't have the NetBeans. That is validator and validator plugin. You have to include this in your struts.xml. Then only that the plugin will be recognized. Then there are 2 additional XML files that you have to use it. One is this validation, the other one is the validation rule. Again, NetBeans will do it directly for you, otherwise you have to copy it and paste it onto your project. So let's look at what is this validator rules. So if you double click on this validator rules, you will notice that this is actually created by the Apache. So this is their rules. These are the templates. So what you find here is the template. So when you want to validate whether the value within the field is required, so you have a field and you want the user to type that value. For example, username or user ID is required. If they submit the form without the user ID, that means to say that you cannot go ahead with it and you have to show an error message to the user. So there are some fields. For example, date of birth is required, or maybe age is required, or address is required, anything for that. If you have that required a kind of validation, how do you validate it? You are not going to, I told you, you are not going to write the Java, but we are in the Java world. Whatever we do has to somehow be converted into Java. So if we are not writing that Java code that will validate the field, somebody else has to do it. Unfortunately, that somebody else has already done that thing. So the people at Jakarta has already done that dirty work of writing the Java code for validating the value of the field, and they have created a class of this type. So do I have to open this class and read? It's not really required. They have already created it for you, and it has been working for so many days, so it maybe so many years. So this is going to work. So this is the name of the class. Now it is not that they are going to create 100 classes. They have created one class, and there are a lot of methods are there. Within this class, there is a method called as validate required. So they have created this class called as field checks. So it's like they have created a class called field check, and there is a public method. Maybe public it's going to return something. Let's say a public void validate. There is some method that they have written. There are many other methods are there here. So you have to say which method you are going to use. So that's the method. Now why this kind of thing is there? Suppose tomorrow if you want to create your own classes for different type of validation, you can extend this XML. So this is two parts. There is a class name and there is a method name. That method, that whatever they have written, this method, so validate required, this method takes number of parameters. So how many parameters it is taking? It takes the first parameter as the object. So that is this. It takes one more parameter called as the validate action. It takes one more the field and so on. So these are all the methods that particular, these are all the parameters that method is going to take. So these are there. And the next one is if there is a error, which is the method that it is supposed to show. And the method is errors dot required. Now if you have opened the resource bundle, you will notice that you have added your epitome and all these things over here. This is your errors. But you have noticed here that there is something called as errors. Now these errors are actually being used up by the validator. Suppose if you enable this validator, it automatically goes there and picks up those errors. Similarly, you have required if, there is a valid when, there are so many methods are there, minimum length, maximum length, the name of the class, the name of the method, the parameters, the message, and there is one additional thing, and that is depends. Now what is this depends? For example, you want to check whether the maximum length is 500. So, or maximum length of characters for the name, not say 500 may be too much. Let's assume that you have a field here and you are asking the enter the password. Okay. You are asking the user to enter the password, and you know where you restrict the maximum length. You may say that minimum the password must be 6 characters, maximum it must be 15 characters. So you may say that the maximum length of characters is 15. So maximum length. You want that thing. But before you calculate this maximum length, you have to first check whether there is something inside it. So in other words, before you do this maximum length calculation, you must see to it that the value is required. Something has to be there, then only you will be able to check whether it is a minimum or maximum range. That means before this maximum length is called, you have to call some other validation. First validation is, is the field empty? Then you will say, if it is not empty, then you will say the minimum length, then maybe maximum length. So this is to say that Is it dependent on something else? Is this validation, is it dependent on some other validation? For example, you may say that maximum length is dependent on required field. You can do that. So you can change it. So you can say required, first it is required, then minimum length must be 6 character, then maximum length 10 characters, then it must be a ordinary characters, and so on. You can have this kind of validators. You can change them one after the other. So these are individual validators. Every piece is individual. When you write the validation, you can change them together. And I'm not going to go into all of them. These are there. So this is the declaration, validator, name of it. This name you are going to use it. For example, the validator, byte, short, whatever you are using, mask or maximum length. This is the name with which you are going to refer this entire piece. Okay. Now this is already, I've told you, this part is already created by the Jakarta. So validator rules are already given. If you want, you can extend it, but most of the time we don't extend it unless and otherwise there is a need for it. Otherwise, it's already there. Okay. Then, when am I going to use this validation, or how am I going to use this particular validation? If you want to use the validation, go for the validation. These are the rules. These are the rules that I've shown you over here. The other part is the actual validation. So this is one more piece. Validation. Validation rules. This is not required. Okay. Validator rules are given by Apache. This is how you are going to use it. For example, you may have a form called as logon form. Let's assume that you created a form. How you created a register form and maybe epitome form or any kind of forms that you have created here. How you created some forms here. Assume that you have a form called as logon form. Okay. And I want to validate. So you know very well logon form, if you take any logon form for that matter, logon form will have two fields. These are the general fields. One is the user ID, the other one is the password. So I want to validate this one and this. So let's assume that the name of the field that you are going to use, the property of this field is username. Okay. Then I'm going to say username required. So what's the meaning of that? Username depends on required. What is the meaning of saying that? Username is making use of this validation rule. So there is this validation rule and it's going to make use of this validation rule. That is what is being shown there. Username is required. If there is an error and if you want to show an error, if you have a personalized error, then show this error. Argument key is logon.username. Where are you supposed to write that thing? In your resource file, somewhere you write a logon failure or anything. You write that key. That is for this. Password. Password is required. So you have one more thing. Password is required, but there is a mask for password. What's the meaning of saying mask? There is a format in which you are supposed to enter the mask. Okay. What is this mask? Again, this mask is coming from somewhere. You can search for NASK. So I got that. Somewhere you will get that mask. There is a validation rule for mask. It's there. It is the mask. Now, when you say the mask, you will have to specify how the mask must appear. The mask must appear like this. So, what is this? Have you done this? Grep. Have you used the grep in Unix? Okay. So you are using regular expression there. Have you used the regular expression? Okay. So this is the beginning. Caret says it's a beginning. This dollar says it is the end. Beginning and end mark. Have you not use this one? Like this kind of thing? Yes? Okay. This is the same thing that is being shown there. Okay. What is the meaning of it? It can be, password can be any number, any character in the small case A to Z, any character in the capitals A to Z, or any digit between 0 to 9. What does that star refers to? There can be any number. Okay. If you say 6, that means there can be only 6 such patterns. This is the multiplicity. If you say the multiplicity is 6, it means to say 6 characters. If you say star, it means it can have any string can be of any length, and that is what is being shown there. Similarly, you may have, I think that's only 2 examples that they have given. Only difference here is they are changing the language to French. That's the only thing. Okay, I have one more. Its postal code is not being used up. These are their samples. We will do the entire exercise. I don't know whether, I think I have it. No, I have it in the other. This is the 32-bit version, so I don't have it in the 32-bit. I did it in the 64-bit. So I changed my OS for 62-bit. Okay, so let's come back. There are 2 files are there, and that is, one is the rules, XML rules. Before you use the plugin, you have to specify the plugin here, and in the start config, say that you are going to use the validator plugin. Then the next part is you have to specify the rules. So there is the rules, you don't have to do it, it's already created by them. The rule has a name, the class name, and the method that you are going to use it, and all the parameters that this method requires. Then it says which are the other method on which it depends. For example, minimum length depends on required. So there is a this method. Before calling it, it's going to call the first required, then it's going to perform the current action. Then the messages that you're going to specify, for example, errors dot messages. Here you have in the properties files or the resource bundle, you have different errors that it's going to show. Okay, we have different methods. I have already shown you: credit card validation, date, email, minimum length, maximum length, and so on. How do I use the validation? There are 2 things. One is validation rule, and the other one is the validation. In the validation, you specify, first thing, you specify form validation. This is the root tag. Inside that, you have to specify form set. So this is required for, as far as the XML, there must be a root tag. That's a part of the XML. So this is XML. There is a root tag. Inside that, you can have any number of form sets. Inside form set, you can have any number of forms. Here only one form is shown. You can have one more form. If you want to have one more form, repeat this block again. Within the form, you specify which is the property that you want to use it, and whether it is dependent on something else. Then specify what is the message that you want to use it. In the bean messages, if you want to give an error message in the bean colon MSD, the one that we are already familiar. So you have used bean colon MSD, and if you want to use the key, you can specify that here. Okay, it's required if you want to show it. Then specify the field property that you specify the one more field. For example, the field name is name. Next one is phone. Phone is required. Phone must be integer. Specify if what message you must show. If it is required, you show some message. If it is blank, phone number is blank, you show one message. If it is not blank, but if it is not an integer, then you show one more message. So depending upon, so this is for required, this name need not be same. If required validation is there, this is going to be activated. If the failure of integer occurs, this is going to be used. So that is how you are going to use it. So what is there in the validation? First one, there must be a form validation. There must be the one. Then there is a form set. Inside form set, you have to specify the name of the form. For example, registration action form, epitome action form, any form name that you are going to use it. Then you specify the field names, one after the other. Okay. Within the field, you specify any additional keys that you want to use it. For example, if you are using variable for mass or date pattern, you can use that thing. So you can specify any number of arguments which are required for the. So you start with the validation, then form set, then the name of the form, then the field name. Specify whether it is dependent on something else. If it is not dependent, don't use this attribute. Specify the mask, and if you want to set some additional property, if you this one is you are using it. If you want to show it like this, yesterday we have done. If you want this tag to show the messages, then you can use the key and the property. Okay. If you are using the bean, then you can use the messages. Okay. The next one is we have already created a lot of JSPs. And if you visit any site for that matter, if you visit the Microsoft or even the St. Aloysius College website, you will notice that every page has the same look and feel. So if you go from one page to the other, there is a standard header, and there may be a menu that is shown here, and you may get a sidebar on this side or a tickler on the other side, and maybe a copyright information at the down. That's there in every page. Now this is the template that they are using. Suppose if you want to use the same kind of tricks in the JSP, how are you going to do it? JSP has a tag called as JSP include. Let's have it like this. This tag helps us to include any file directly at this point. Suppose if I want to, in the ordinary JSP, if I want to include a header, I can create a separate page. I can design a separate page with all the fancy header. And if I want that this is a separate page, let me call it as header.jsp. This is my main page. If I want to input, so I have designed all the headers here with all the colors and all the things. If I want this page to be included at this location, I can go to my JSP and I can say JSP include file equal to header.jsp. So in my JSP page, in this page, if I just say JSP include the other file, during the runtime, whatever content of this page will be taken up and embedded at the place wherever you have used that tag. It is possible to create it. So what's the advantage of this? Tomorrow if you change the header, if you change the banner or if you change the color of the header, you don't have to go to this main page and do anything. You just have to recompile the entire application. This new updates will be automatically highlighted in the JSP page. This is the olden days. This is how the people used to include the pages. But there is a problem with this kind of inclusion. The problem with this is, I can do the same thing. I can include one more page at this location. I can create one more page and include. I can create one more page, separate page, and then write the same thing, include it. I can create one more page and include it. So it's possible. In some other page, if I am creating a second page, what I'm supposed to do is, if I create a, say, second .jsp, wherever I want the header, I have to just write include header. Wherever I want a footer, say include footer. So this is the one way of solving the problem. So you will have the constant look and feel throughout the site. So you create a banner, keep it in one page. You create a sidebar, keep it in one page. You create a footer, keep it in one page. Finally, take all of them, put it into one main page and show it. So every page will have the same look and feel. However, this has a problem. We will see what is the problem in the